I have a semicolon tattooed on the outside of my right finger. I wanted this tattoo for a long time before I went and had it done, yet for some reason, when someone asks me the meaning of it, I lie every time. The semicolon is a symbol for suicide prevention. The metaphor being that when an author is writing a sentence, they could choose to end it with a period or continue the thought by placing a semicolon, such that with life you can choose to end your life or you can choose to keep living it. When people ask what my tattoo is or what it means or why I got it, I tell them the meaning as stated above, and then I tell them that a friend of mine gave me her note. As years of having this tattoo have gone by, I realized how uncomfortable I would get anytime I would be asked about it. It got to the point where I contemplated getting it removed, but why am I ashamed of it? No friend of mine has ever given me a note. No friend of mine has ever committed suicide. So there lies the question that I've been asked repetitively, and the same question I've been avoiding repetitively. Why do I have it? Suicide isn't something you run around eager to talk to people about, and in fact, it's almost, if not the direct opposite, to which it is never spoken about. This is how I justify my facade of the motive of this tattoo, but I'm done lying to others, and more importantly, I'm done lying to myself. So here's my confession. In the winter of my junior year of high school, I came very close to killing myself. This isn't even an attempt and fail story, but it's its own story, and I'm ready for it to be heard, so here it goes. High school, a time of utter confusion on all aspects of life. Questions and thoughts of insecurities bustle in your head like the schools of people swimming through Times Square. Millions of thoughts and anxieties darting through your mind in a million different directions all at one time. Will I fit in? Do I look okay? Does he like me? Am I cool enough? What do they think about me? The list is infinite. I had my group of friends, the four of us stuck together in middle school and made it to high school being our same weird selves but looking a little less awkward. As time went on throughout our freshman year, we each blossomed in different directions but stayed close nonetheless. Sports teams really influenced that, and time spent with teammates changed the relationship status from mate to friend. I was on the dance company and really found that group as my home. As the four of us grew, we met boys and started dating for the first times, getting our first kisses and firsts of everything for that matter, as if they were on some to-do list. There was a point in time when the three other of my friends all had boyfriends and I remained the single one. For a while, I tried to keep it lighthearted and approach it in a joking manner, and it worked. As a result, I got comfortable with it, making a joke out of my deeper feelings, that is. Oh yeah, here I am, the only single one, the permanent third wheel, I would say with a sarcastic chuckle, but inside I would be aching, blaming myself for no one liking me enough to date me. From this, I began to rapidly lose myself down a dark path of self-disgust and mind-controlling insecurity. I began to hate myself for who I was and tried to change to become exactly like everyone else. If everyone else is happy in a relationship, then if I am like them, I will be too. The authentic Sylvia Nicole I know now vanished as quickly as that corrupt thought overtook my adolescent brain. I tried so hard to be what was wanted, what I thought was accepted, what I thought was popular, pretty, cool, that infinite list back again. I had my eyes set on a boy who I wanted to date. I barely even knew him, but for some reason I craved his attention with a dire need. I began transforming myself into what he wanted, going out of my way to be around him, tending to his needs, getting his attention, and when I finally did, it was some sick sort of steroid for the depression I didn't know was growing within me like wildfire. Finally, he showed some interest, and I had a completely distorted view and idea of what falling in love was supposed to be like. This wasn't natural. This didn't just happen like people say it does. It was forced on my behalf, yet I was blind to it. And I really thought that was how it happened. From changing myself so much for him before we even dated, I would just adjust myself to his wants and needs. I unknowingly gave him reign of my entirety as a human being, my actions, my feelings, my thoughts, my emotions. All this power in his first relationship and this obedience in mine. We were both living in such distortion, but for some reason we both continued to play the part, unaware of the brutality the relationship was brewing. I would do anything for him. I wanted the love they had in the movies, where they lay on picnic blankets and whisper sweet nothings to one another, where they talk about leaving the world behind and running away. That true love where nothing else matters, but that's the opposite of what I created for myself. Time progressed, and I was cheated on, lied to, treated like shit, verbally abused, mentally deteriorated. I never understood why this happened, but I gave him that power. I served it to him on a silver platter when I blatantly threw myself at him. I held all of my worth in him and his actions. All of my happiness lay on its deathbed under his control. He would sit there and compare me to my friends, telling me he wished I was more like them, leaving me trying to rid of my authentic self more than I wished it away in the beginning. He would comment on my clothing and tell me I was dressing like a whore. He determined what I could and could not wear, what I should and should not wear, what was allowed and what was not. We were not allowed to kiss in public, not even on the cheek. Hugging was acceptable, but only on his terms. He laid down rules as if our relationship was an empire. He was the ruler, and I was the peasant who must obey. This was not a romantic relationship. This was a monarchy, a corrupt one at that. He told me I could not drink with my friends. He told me I looked fat. He told me I needed to brush my hair more often. Told me I couldn't sit on his couch because he thought I was dirty. He would show my friends more attention than me, as if intentionally to teach me some sort of lesson, as if I was being reprimanded for breaking some unsaid rule of his. I would do anything for him, bake for him, buy him lunch and bring it to him, surprise him with small notes, give him nothing but the love I wanted in return, and I would receive nothing but disapproval. His thoughts took over mine. I was not good enough. I was not pretty enough. I was not cool enough. His opinion became my truth. I finally realized my state of being. I was deeply rooted in a dark hole these truths dug me into. So deep I couldn't even see the light at the top. So deep it felt as if down was the only plausible direction. I would cry and complain to my friends about how much I did for him and how I got nothing in return, how he was mean to me, how he would belittle me, and then they would tell me what I needed to hear and I would defend him. The metaphor of the corrupt empirical leader stays true. Though corrupt, the people will remain loyal to their leader to avoid being hanged for treason. My dad lived away for work my freshman and sophomore year and moved back into the house with me and my mom my junior year, the darkest year of my existence. He left his young, jubilant, impressionable daughter and came back to a girl he didn't recognize. My mother and I had learned how the other functioned, having it be just the two of us in our oversized, echoing house originally built to accustom 5 occupants. We had our routines and understood one another. He came back to the house like an invasive species to an ecosystem. My hatred for my life, my boyfriend, myself was uncontrollably exerted onto my father. The way he chewed his food, the way he talked to me like a child, the way he breathed, I hated it all. I hated him with so much anger and so much rage and so much fury. He would enter the room and I would leave fuming from the ears. I had no idea why, but I hated him. I hated him with all of my might and power, but there was no justification for it. I told my mom I wanted to see a therapist, but she's a very dismissal woman. Any sickness or injury wasn't a concern to her unless it outlasted her give it a week measure to take anything into consideration. It took almost all of my energy that wasn't being consumed by my relationship to build up the courage to ask her this. I didn't want to come across as weak and disabled. I didn't want to have a mental sickness, but I did. When I broke the silence in the car with the question, she looked at me with concern, but as expected, brushed off the seriousness of the comment. She told me I could talk to her about whatever I needed to. I knew she would react with impulse and misunderstanding. I told her I was unhappy. I wanted emotional help, and she told me something I will never forget. She said to me, "Sylvia, you focus so much on other people's happiness, you forget about your own." I'd wondered why she hadn't brought this to my attention before. I felt as if she understood, and I felt a little safer. I would cry all the time, look in the mirror, and hate what I saw. I would deprive myself of food and nutrients and overwork my body in dance and at the gym. The hatred for my dad grew, and as of this point, I was aware of my depression, but it was so in control I had no choice but to abide by its rules. I told my mom I hated him, and I made her promise not to tell. She replied by telling me my dad asked what happened to his little girl. She was confused as to how I was so upset because in her eyes, I had everything possible going for me. I had great grades, great friends, a loving boyfriend, dance, etc. As she listed these, I broke down. I told her I was depressed. I told her I had dangerous thoughts, and she reacted in the exact way I feared she would. She was scared, what mother wouldn't be. But with fear comes the inability to control emotions. She got angry with me and started yelling, almost mocking me, asking if I was cutting myself, asking me how that would look when I have scars for the rest of my life. But she was mistaken. The dangerous thoughts I was having weren't of self-harm. How could she be so naive, I thought to myself. Why would I cut myself when I could just kill myself? My dad moved to a new location for work. This time it was Omaha, Nebraska. My mom would go out and visit him a lot, their biggest fear being that I would throw a party, not even aware that losing their youngest daughter to a mental illness was a possibility. Not truly aware of the strength of the sickness, I fed the beast. I would listen to meditation music and try to calm my nerves, but instead it would lead to a trail for self-destructive thoughts to come pouring into my stream of consciousness. I would play this music out loud in that oversized, echoing house originally built for 5 occupants that was then only holding 1. The music carried in the depression on smooth notes that almost sounded euphoric to me. I thought to myself that this could be it. If I just do it, I won't have to suffer anymore. I told myself that clearly no one would care anyway. I told myself that it was the right decision. But me telling myself was the sickness taking on the facade of my authentic festered thoughts, those in which were held captive. I was screaming at the top of my lungs, but was deaf to myself at the same time. I began to think about who I would write notes for. My parents, my friends, my sisters, so removed from the situation in the solidarity of their dorm rooms. I kept thinking of people I wanted to apologize to. To all these people, I wanted to reiterate that it wasn't their fault, that it was mine, for letting myself be so weak and be so stupid. I wanted to blame my boyfriend, and the angel and demon on my shoulder argued back and forth about who was to blame for this pitiful state I was in. I wrote a couple notes, then decided it wasn't even worth the notes. Why do I have to explain myself? The opportunity is right now, and I need to take it. It was mid-January in Maryland. Outside was pitch black, and the cold air bit at you ferociously as you walked through it. I went up to my room and looked at myself for a long time in the mirror. I didn't recognize the body I saw. I didn't recognize the person behind my once brightly lit blue eyes. They were dead inside. They held nothing but deep sorrow. I looked at the stranger in the mirror, subconsciously saying goodbye. I changed into a white dress and put on some makeup. I decided if I was going to leave this life, I wanted to leave it looking beautiful. What a paradox. I walked downstairs almost unconsciously as if I was sleepwalking, functioning under the control of the evil depression that was consuming me. That malicious January air kissed my cheek, welcoming me into the darkness, instead of nipping at me to go back inside like it would have any other day. I gathered bricks and rope and made my way down to the pier that jutted out into the eerily still water that I was about to feed. Icebergs floated still as I gazed out into the dark abyss that was about to consume me. Tears steamed against the cold as they rolled from my eyes down my cheeks. This was it. Will they find me right away? I thought, and a ruthless "who cares" replied, encouraging me to do it. Then something happened. Something I still don't fully understand but am forever grateful for. My voice, myself. Sylvia Nicole, the girl I once knew, the girl I once was, screamed one last time. She gave out one last shrill cry, begging for her life. My head was spinning. It was almost as if I had woken from a hypnotic trance when I became aware of what was about to happen. I started thinking of all the misery I would cause to others that I cared about if I did this. I started to think about how selfish this was. I felt myself ripping out of the roots that held me hostage as my real voice grew louder and louder in my head, my words of reason becoming clearer. What saved me was the people I loved in life, the people I really cared about, whether they cared about me or not. I didn't want to cause them pain and confusion just because I was feeling such. I decided I was going to fight it for them. As I look back at this, what first comes to me is what my mom told me when I asked her to see a therapist. Her telling me I put other people's happiness before mine, and I shouldn't do that. But in this instant, that trait of mine is what saved my life against the almost unbreakable sickness of depression. Now I treasure that trait so much. I find happiness in making others happy because I know what it's like to be so fucking sad. Making other people happy has turned from making me weak to making me strong. I know how powerful one kind act can be because maybe that's all I needed to. You never know what a person is going through or what position they are in mentally. From the outside, I seemed to have everything, but on the inside, I was destroying myself. Suicide is a permanent end to a temporary problem. One act of kindness can unknowingly be the saving grace to a person who is trapped in the darkness of their thoughts. It can be the life ring that pulls them out. I'm not glad this happened, but to an extent I am glad that it happened because it has made me the person I am today, and I'm so grateful that I am still here to tell about it and spread awareness to people about the severity of the sickness. This has led me to take in how beautiful life is, in all of its flaws and times of shit luck, to its most incredible moments. I cringe at the fact that I almost threw it all away. But this has made me learn so much, way more for my years of existence. I have always been told I'm an old soul, but I do feel I have quite a bit of wisdom and awareness due to having to fight this battle completely alone, and due to being able to get out of it, learn from it, and appreciate it. So there's my story, and I hope some can relate on some of the troubles I faced when trying to figure myself out at a younger age. From this experience, I've learned an infinite amount, but it has taken a lot of time. When I see my friends in situations where they are not being treated the way they should, or they are trapped in a depressed state, I do everything I can to change their mindset. The one thing I can positively say about the sickness of depression is that it does get to the point where only the person consumed by it is the one who can really make a difference and change to pull themselves out. Oftentimes, people get stuck and blinded to the main cause of hurt in their life and tend to defend it. Likewise, I did the same thing. But once you reach that turning point in that moment of realization, you snap out of it and see the cause of hurt in its true light. Some of you listening to this may be in a worse place than I was or in a less severe state than I was. But regardless, what I want this to help with is allowing you to become aware that everything that happens in your life is in your control. If you want change, you have to be the change and make that change apparent instead of victimizing yourself to external forces. Yes, sometimes shit happens, but you choose how you react to it, and that is how you can change your life. There are two ways you can view your life: normally and naturally. In this normal view of life, we tend to feel that bad things just happen to us for no reason. I woke up late because my alarm didn't go off, and now I'm late to work, and now it appears that the traffic is way more congested than it normally is. Now I'm in such a rush, so I'm frustrated, and I spilled hot coffee on my new blouse. I get to work, and there's so much for me to do, and I'm in a terrible mood, and this entire day has been terrible. Why do bad things happen to me? This is the worst day ever. A common line that even I've said myself. In the natural view of life, we determine what happens to us based upon our reaction. I woke up late because my alarm didn't go off. Okay, it's already happened. There's nothing I can do about it now. Let me take responsibility for this and message my boss telling them I will be a couple minutes late. I know that I'm still going to get there regardless of traffic, and now it appears that I've hit almost every green light. When I get to work, I sit down and do my shit to make up for the time that I lost by showing up late. I got extra sleep today by default, so maybe I don't really need a coffee. Today wasn't so bad. The difference here is how you choose to respond to the events that happen to you in a day. I'm a strong believer in karma, and I believe that karma has many disguised ways of showing itself. What you put into the universe gives you back. If you get easily pissed, you are being reactive as opposed to proactive. When you curse your day or whatever divine power you may believe in, subconsciously you begin looking for things that can contribute to a horrible day. Living in the normal mindset, you do this and then go home and make the claim, woe is me, bad things happen to good people, I don't deserve this. But this is where you went wrong. The only thing that can really make your day horrible is your active decision to allow it to be. If you wake up every day, look in the mirror and say, I'm going to make today great, I guarantee it will be one of the better days you've had in a while, all because you are actively choosing to have it go that way. This is how simple it is to start living the life you really want. The story of mine I just shared is not easy to talk about, and it never will be, but that has led me to be the person I am today, who is strong, independent, and optimistic as ever. Within these series of podcasts, I'm going to touch on multiple topics that can help you change your mindset to encourage positive thinking and a positive lifestyle. It is all about your choice and how you communicate with yourself and others in your interpersonal relationships. All you have to do is readjust your brain to get out of the social construct we've been trained to live under. The unsaid requirement that you have to do this or you shouldn't do that. When you start living for yourself and doing things that genuinely bring you happiness and a feeling of content, then you live in peace. So welcome to the Positivity Podcast. Talk to you soon. Sylvia.